and pilots from right around the world, reliving heritage and ancient aircraft, as well as right up to date with the cutting edge technology of the Gen 5 fighter jets of the modern world. But really, it all starts with youngsters being inspired. And Aerobility, of course, is all about giving that extra inspiration and, of course, motivation to do things that you thought you never can do. Now, these two guys we've got here today, Ling and Perty, they've got AVTR in their DNA. They live, breathe, and they have reached the ultimate pinnacle of flying for the Red Arrows. Mike, let's start with you. How did it all start with you? What sort of age were you when you said, I want to do that?
It was the Red Arrows that inspired me, George, and watched them at Biggin Hill when I was pretty much 1 year old, all the way up to leaving the Air Cadets at 18 to join the Royal Air Force. So definitely Red Arrows that inspired me, and yeah, I'm very grateful that they did.
Yeah, and I can see by the smile on your face, you're just living every moment in that cockpit, even though you're not in it right now. Perty, you're leading probably the finest aerobatic team in the world. I hesitate because there's so much competition across all the teams in the world, isn't there? But I mean, what must it feel like to be in your job right at the sharp end of that team?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there is no competition, George. That's the first thing I'll say. But it's absolutely the highlight of my career, completely. To be, you know, aviation is not a job; it's a lifestyle, and this job that I have is the dream job in aviation. And just much like Mike and everyone else involved in it, I was inspired as a young child by watching airplanes and flying machines. And that's why it's so useful to link up with a charity like Aerobility, who provide that opportunity to experience flight regardless of your physical or even your mental ability. And that's why we as the Red Arrows are so proud to support them.
Lingy, who would that man be? Is there somebody you still admire above all else in the aviation world?
I have to say there is, George. Yeah, the late great Ray Hanna, who was a founding member of the Red Arrows, and then was the team leader for 4 years, who then became one of the most well-known warbird pilots across the whole community and across the world. So having seen his displays with MH434, his Mark 9 Spitfire, and seeing what he did was just the most inspiring flying for me. So yeah, definitely Ray Hanna.
Oh, well, how'd you beat that, Percy? Who would be your role model?
He's stolen mine. It was another Red Arrows pilot. Actually, my role model as a young boy growing up, because I was a little bit nerdy about the flying stats, it was actually Alex Henshaw, the test pilot, the very infamous test pilot of the Spitfire world. And just the way he managed to use both his technological and engineering know-how to apply that into the flying world, and really sort of the synergy between him and the people who are making these machines for ultimately war purposes was kind of my inspiration as a young boy. But you know, actually, as you grow up and get into the Air Force, and then you meet pilots who've made it into the Red Arrows, people you've been on squadrons with, they're the people that inspire you. It's the people who fly these machines. So it's kind of irrelevant who that personality is. It's when you get to live, breathe, and talk with people who get to fly them. And that's why we do the role we do as the Red Arrows. We get out there and talk to people about our job.
And there we go now towards the end of another fantastic display from the Red Arrows. So much more coming your way on Saturday the 20th. All the excitement. You don't even have to go out. You just need to relax in your armchair, in your own home, whatever device you have handy.
Well, thank you, George. It's fabulous to introduce Aerobility as well. Aerobility is a charity which changes so many lives through the magic of aviation. And we couldn't do what we do without the fantastic support of the entire aviation industry. And the pinnacle of that is formation aerobatic teams like, of course, the Red Arrows, the Blades, and Mike and Martin, both members of those incredible teams, and to have their support and to be here today to help us introduce the concept of the show in the run-up to June the 20th, Saturday afternoon, which is going to be so memorable, is absolutely brilliant. And doing this together, we can genuinely change the lives of thousands of disabled people every year. What a great thing to do using the magic of the sky.